If we all just listened to the messages of the plants, if we all just heeded that inner part of ourselves that was guiding us towards connecting with the living world, everything on our planet would change. Hello and welcome back to Remember Why You're Here, a podcast for seekers and sensitives where you can relax, receive, reconnect to yourself, and remember the most important thing of all, why you're here. We are fully in spring where I am in the mountains of Western North Carolina. It's absolutely angelic. The flowers are blooming, the canopy has flushed out, everything is green and new and smells like a dream. And I find every single spring I just get so excited about working with the plants again. If you are listening to this episode today, you are probably in somewhat of a similar boat. What I have found over the years is that plants will call to us. They will ask us to come and be in relationship with them. And the fact that you're listening to this podcast today is telling me that it's time for you to step into or deepen your relationship with the plant world. Because here's the deal, the plants want to work with you. The plants are conscious, sentient beings. They're beings that we have evolved to be in relationship with, a very primary relationship with, and they want to work with you. They want to be in relationship with you. And this episode is here to help you explore that. It's here to help you understand that call, perhaps why it's coming in, how to heed that call, and how to start working with the plants. Because what I have seen is that when we can listen to that call to start interacting with the plants on a deeper level, we will often initiate the next era in our life. So I had a very strong call to start working with plants. And one of the things that I have seen is that often this call to work with the plant realm will come in during a time in our life when we are moving through really deep material, when we are in the midst of a healing crisis and a dark night of a soul, in a soul forging time. The plants will come in and really ask to work with you to help you move into the next phase of your life, move into the next phase of your existence. So for me, this began in my late teens when I was in college. And at the time, I was diagnosed with a chronic pain condition called vulvodynia. I was told that there was no recourse for healing, that I would likely have to get surgery to remove nerve endings from my body if I wanted to experience any kind of relief. And I often talk about this time of my life as one in which it was so painful to be inside my body that I just started going out. I just started going out into the woods, out into the living world. And this was really the one place where I felt held. It was the one place where I felt seen. Chronic illness, chronic pain is often invisible. And especially when you're in a time of your life when not necessarily many of your peers are moving through that similar kind of experience. So it was a very lonely time for me. It was a very isolating and challenging time for me. And yet it was also this really powerful gateway that opened up this deep, spiritual, intuitive connection with the living world. So at this time, I knew like no plant names. I probably could identify a maple, and that was about it. Like I knew nothing about plants. I just knew that I had to get out and I had to start talking to the plants. I had to start being with them. It was the only place I felt solace. I felt hope. I saw real time, when I started going out every single day, I saw real time how the seasons would change and the earth would heal, how healing was always possible, how there were these other avenues and ways of healing beyond what I had been handed. And so it was really this primary relationship with the plants that had nothing to do even with knowing how to work with them as physical medicine in an herbalist kind of capacity. But it was just this heart-to-heart connection that began to heal me. And my healing journey from that time of my life of dealing with chronic pain and also chronic infection had a lot of threads. But what I found is that this connection to the plants was the thing that helped me find the threads, that helped me start to untangle sort of the complicated weave of things that included trauma resolution, that was dietary changes, that was, lifestyle changes emotional changes, like the sort of the bedrock of my existence and how I was functioning in the world, it needed support, it needed to change. And it was the plants who showed me how to make that change. And so it was really through that experience of working with the plants, of seeing that healing was possible, of just like laying my body beneath trees and finding hope rise up to meet me, finding perspective, new avenues of healing. I started going through more alternative routes of healing. And so much of that was inspired by and guided by the living world. And it was really through this experience that I got excited about learning how to actually work with plants. So it was through this experience that I got excited about learning how to garden. I ended up moving to New York City and got the only job I could find involved with plants, which was a plant technician, which is a fancy word for someone who takes care of office plants. I would travel around Times Square and Rockefeller Center, Midtown, the financial district, and I would be taking care of office plants in these big high-rise office buildings. And that was another layer of experience in which I didn't necessarily know anything about herbal medicine or working with plants in a physical capacity, but I knew what it was like to sit with a lonely plant in an empty office and watch them flourish just through me having poured my love and attention and care into this being. I knew what it felt like to watch myself flourish, to have more groundedness in life, perspective, more possibility come in just through having connected to these plant beings. And then I woke up one morning and there was just this idea there. And that idea was, I'm meant to study herbalism. And I laugh about it now because at the time I had no actual clue what it meant to be an herbalist. I had never made a loose leaf tea. I didn't even know what a tincture was, a salve, any of those things. I just woke up and that idea was there. I meant to become an herbalist. And so I ended up applying to different herbal schools and decided to go to the Chestnut School of Herbal Medicine here in Western North Carolina with Juliet Blankespoor. And I arrived on that first day not knowing anything. Like I really knew nothing. Like at some point we went around and everyone was talking about their favorite herb. And I legitimately didn't know what to say because I just had never actually worked with the plants before in that way. And I was like, peppermint? I think I might have said peppermint. But but this to me is just such a beautiful reminder of this fact that we think working with plants has to look a particular way, but it doesn't. And even as I went through training to become an herbalist, I graduated, I started working with people in a consultation practice, I started teaching herbalism. But at the heart of my practice was always this more energetic thread of working with the plants. I fell in love with flower essences before I even stepped into herbal school. And so that was sort of a through line for me with everything that I did and everyone that I worked with. And so for me, my relationship with the plants, it really lives in this realm of communication, of community, of connection, of knowing that I can receive this spiritual, emotional support that I need to take the next leap in my life through having this relationship with plants. And I'm really passionate about this and about talking about it because I think there is this misnomer that like you need to become an herbalist with a capital H in order to work with the plants. And that's just not true. Plants are calling to you. If you're listening to this podcast, the plants are calling to you. Whether you are a yoga teacher, you are a stay-at-home mom, you are a Reiki practitioner, you're an artist, you're an accountant. The plants want to work with you. We have a long-standing ancestral relationship with plants. They are here to support us. They're here to help us. I really consider plants to be angels. And at its heart, if we look at the Latin root of the word angel, it means messenger. So plants will be showing up in our life to bring us messages, to bring us guidance, to help direct us towards the niche that we're meant to fulfill here on this planet. As humans, we are the younger brothers and sisters of existence. We are very new on the scene, and we are meant to be here in relationship to the elders of this planet. And plants are the elders that make our lives possible. It's the plants that make human existence a reality, from our clothes to our food to our shelter and to our spiritual lives. Plants are multidimensional beings. Most of us grew up in cultures where plants were seen as objects. Plants were seen as items, as somewhere in this spectrum of alive but not alive in the way that we are, or alive but not conscious or not sentient. And this simply is not true. The longer you spend with plants, the more you realize that you're actually in the presence of a consciousness that is much older, much deeper, and much wiser than your own. And as humans, we're meant to be on this planet and be in relationship to these kinds of elders, to be learning from them. And so it's no mistake that when you start working with plants, when you come into connection with plants, they will help you evolve. They will help you unfold, and they'll help you find your niche in this world, the medicine that you are here to bring to this planet. Every kind of plant has their own medicine, whether or not that's medicine that we humans can take internally. They carry a medicine for their ecosystem, for where they live in the world, for how they interact with others. And the plants will show us what our medicine is if we simply say yes to working with them. So there are so many ways to work with plants. If you're feeling called, if you're new to this, or if you're feeling called to go deeper. I've been working with plants now for over 15 years, and I continually go through these cycles of sort of forgetting and then a renaissance, or of stepping away for a little bit, having life get super busy, and then having this incredible return of remembering just how much richness is here, just how much healing, just how much potential. And so wherever you are in your plant journey, let this be a sign for you that the plants are ready to deepen with you, to take that next step and that next level. So the first thing I always recommend when you're working with plants, and especially if you really want to work on this more emotional, spiritual level with plants, is to begin a relationship with them. And the easiest way to begin any relationship is to introduce yourself. So go outside, sit with a plant, and literally introduce yourself, like your name, where you're from, what your intention is. When we meet a human out in the world, we do this naturally, right? We have this sort of way in which we meet and we establish a connection. And so not only is this respectful for the plant that you want to work with, to introduce yourself and take that time, it also is signaling to your brain that this is a being that you are here to be in communication with. A lot of this work of starting to unveil the true magic that plants carry and communicate with the sentience that they carry is about rewiring our brains to be aware of this, to be open to this, because most of us have been wired from a young age to see nature in this realm of hierarchy, in this realm of objectification. And even if, we know on a certain part of our brain or intellectually that, yes, the plants are alive, everything is animated by spirit, this world is full of soul and sentience, there's some convincing sometimes that our brain needs. And when you introduce yourself to a plant, you're literally training your brain to start seeing plants as alive and sentient conscious beings. So introduce yourself and then just take a moment and see what comes. See if you have any feelings, if you have any sensations arise, if you have any songs float into your head, if you have any lyrics come into your mind, poetry. I really encourage people to work with their clairs, and your clairs will be unique to you. So most people are familiar with the term clairvoyant, which means you know things by seeing them. So you might see an aura around a tree, you might see some sparkle lights, you might see a fairy, but people aren't as familiar with some of the other clairs. So you might be clairaudient. Clairaudient means that you know things because you hear things. So that might be actually hearing a message from a plant, but it also might be hearing a song or hearing something that someone said to you the other day. That's another way information can come in. A lot of people are clairsentient as well. Clairsentient means that you know things because you feel them. You have an actual sensation inside your body, maybe even the rising of emotion, and you know what's being said because you can feel it inside of yourself. And this is a more subtle one, but it's more prevalent, especially for sensitives and empaths, that we will be highly clairsentient. And it's just about trusting what's coming through for us. And then there's claircognizant. Claircognizant is you know something because it just seems to download into your mind. So the way this looks for me is that I'll be sitting with a plant and I'll just have an idea plop into my head, just clear as day. And I've learned to not ignore those ideas. I've learned that those ideas are not just coming from my own conscious mind, but that they are coming from me sitting with this elder. So pay attention to the ways that you receive information, input, and just be open. After you introduce yourself, sit in quietude and just connect with this plant being. One thing you can do to deepen your connection is to bring some sort of gift. And we do this with humans all the time, right? Humans we want to be in close relationship with, we bring them some sort of gift. Well, you can do this for the plants too. And anything that you bring, as long as it's biodegradable and it's safe to be left outside, is going to be welcome, as long as you bring it with this heart intention of really giving something in a way of being in relationship. So you could bring water, you could bring flowers, you could bring a song, you could bring a poem, you could bring a bit of your hair. What matters is that it's meaningful to you and that you're giving it with the fullness of your heart. And then the next thing is just consistency, to keep showing up, to keep sitting with that plant, to greet them every day, to spend that time to get to know them, to really observe. So much of our nervous systems as human beings were built to be regulated by being in nature, by being with these elders in nature. And so really amazing things can start to shift by just spending time with plant beings. It's amazing how much faster you can get to a state of regulation just putting yourself outside versus, all the tools or tactics we might have sitting indoors. It's like pushing the speed dial on regulation by going and sitting outside, because this is how we were meant to regulate, in the presence of these kinds of elders in this attachment field with the more than human world. So that is always what I recommend to get started, to develop or deepen a relationship with a plant. And I still practice this all the time. All the time, new plants are waving to me, calling to me, trying to get my attention. And so how do you know if this is happening for you? It's super simple. You're fascinated by them. You're interested in them. You're like, what is that tree? Who is that being? I want to know more. That right there is the message that they are calling to you, that they're speaking to you. Plants can also show up in other ways. You could have synchronicities around a plant. Someone keeps mentioning this specific plant. Or you might even have a plant show up in one of your dreams. Plants will reach us through these different methods of our intuition and ask to say, I want to be in relationship with you. But just you following your curiosity, your fascination, your passion, that will lead you directly to the plants who are already asking to work with you. And what I have found is that most of the time, the plants who want to work with us are already growing around us. This idea that we need to travel to some far-flung place or get some sort of exotic medicine in order to really make a profound connection is just simply not true. The plants around you, the plants that are growing in your backyard, in your neighborhood, are not only the ones that are wanting to get your attention, but they're also often the ones that have the most healing for you. So we've heard this, we've made this connection. What comes next? What are some other steps for deepening your relationship with plants? Well, my favorite way of deepening a relationship with a plant is to grow a plant. You will learn so much about a plant just by growing them. So whether you can plant this plant in your garden, or whether you'll have a little windowsill garden, or you're just going to try starting it by seed, because why not? You'll get to learn a little bit about this plant. Growing a plant will teach you so much. Again, this is about this primary direct relationship with plants. And even if you aren't growing the plant to imbibe the plant or process it into medicine, just by growing the plant, being with the plant in that way, you will learn so much about the kind of medicine it carries and the kind of medicine it's here to impart to you. Now, if you can imbibe a plant, if you can take a plant internally, I love suggesting that people start with infusions. So infusions are basically just teas. You're making a loose leaf tea. Of course, you're going to want to make sure that this plant is something you can ingest. But I find teas really give you a taste for the plant. They're safe for most people as long as there's not contraindications for that plant's use. And it's such a tactile process of gathering this herb, whether you're gathering it from the grocery store or you're harvesting it and bringing it into your home. And in general, the easiest way to make an infusion is just to chop up that herb, cover it with just boiled water, put a lid on. The lid is important. So I just will sometimes use a mason jar lid or a plate, put the lid on and let it steep for 20 to 30 minutes. And this is especially potent for any kind of leaf material. If you get into working with things like bark or roots, we often want to do a light boil on those. This is called a decoction, but for me, even working with these more woodier plants, I love making infusions to start with because if you've never done it before, it feels super witchy and fun to have your cup be swirled with this plant matter and to just watch the water change color. It's such a cool alchemy. And then you siphon it off just by pouring it through any kind of strainer or a piece of cheesecloth. And then you have your infusion and you get to experience in your body all the different layers of that plant's medicine. How does it taste? How does it smell? Do you feel warmer or colder after you drink it? And really taking that time to be with your body and notice the sensation will give you a lot of information about your relationship with that plant. I also love encouraging people to work with flower essences. And if you're new to flower essences, I just released a podcast a couple weeks ago called You Are a Flower Essence for This World. And in that podcast, I go over the basic tutorial of how to make your own flower essences. You can make an essence from any kind of flower in the world. And it's such a beautiful process that will connect you directly into the heart of that plant, that will really connect you into the spiritual medicine that that plant is holding. And I often find just through making a flower essence, really dedicating yourself to that process, so much information will start downloading to you just through sitting with the plant in that kind of intentional way. So flower essences, if you haven't listened to that podcast, flower essences are flowers collected at the height of their bloom, floated in water underneath sunlight. And the concept of flower essences is that the energy of that flower is going into that water, just like making an infusion, except we're asking the spiritual energy of that flower to go into the water. And the water captures and amplifies that energy. And then we take that water in drop dosages. And the drop dosage aspect is important because what we're looking for is the more subtle energetics of that plant. That I often describe it as there are places inside of ourselves that are so deep, it's as if they're under lock and key, and we need something small enough to go through the keyhole. And that's what flower essences are. They are powerful energetic medicine that is dilute enough to go through that keyhole and then unlock so much potential within us to really help us unblock ourselves, to see the things that are blocking our own blossoming, our own becoming. And this is why we work with flowers in particular, because they help us step into that energetic of flowering, of becoming, of stepping into the width of what's possible for us here on this planet. So I absolutely love making your own flower essences, working with flower essences. You could also go to the store, wander the aisles, see which flower essence is calling your name. Trust yourself, trust your body, trust what's coming to you. I've had so many experiences of just picking up a flower essence in the store, maybe especially in the beginning if I hadn't ever heard of them, and then having like really profound emotional releases the moment I step out of the store, the moment I start taking them, and I know for sure this is the one that was right for me. When I was in practice and I would work with children, I would often line up my bottles of flower essences, and most of these kids couldn't read or, weren't stopping to read all the labels. And I would just let them choose whatever they wanted. And it was always incredible to me, given, what their caregivers had asked me to work with them on or what they had told me they were moving through, what they chose. Because there's this level in which we always know what we need. We always know. And it's just about making it conscious. And flower essences are so good at that. If you just follow your intuition, if you just select the one that is calling to you, make the flower essence from the flower that is already just feeling really beautiful and fascinating and intriguing to you, and you will see so much healing unfold. So there are so many ways to work with plant medicine, and all of them are just so fun because when you step into them, you definitely start feeling like the witch in the woods, and you start receiving so much information from the plants. You start understanding exactly why they called you in, exactly what they're here to help you heal with. Plants are evolutionary beings. They have lived through so many epochs here on this earth. They know how to evolve with the changing times. They know how to find and fulfill the niche that they're meant to fulfill in this world. And so I really believe plants are coming in now for us very strongly because they're helping us meet this big time of evolutionary leaps on this planet. They are helping us to come back home, to remember why we're here, to remember what our role is as humans on this planet. And I really believe that each one of us has a very unique medicine that we bring to this world, a medicine that is every bit as profound and needed as the medicine of the plants. And when we work with the plants, they show us what that medicine is. They help us come home to that medicine, to realize that medicine and to value it, to let it unfold in the way it was meant to in this lifetime. So I've been teaching a class now for almost a decade called Intuitive Plant Medicine. And I have decided to do something super radical this year with Intuitive Plant Medicine, which is that I'm putting it on sale for almost 40% off, which is kind of nuts. Uh, the online program now has been running for 9 years, and it is just chock full of so much richness. There are 8 weeks of content. It's an 8-week course. There's 16 videos. There's over 500 pages of full color PDFs. There are 12 guided meditations. We have over 50 bonus classes and materials. So I'm not kidding when I say that this thing is just so full of so much richness. We've guided almost 5,000 people through the program. And I was really excited about putting this course on such a deep sale, because I just really feel like we're in a moment right now where we need the support of the plants, where it's time. And I just went through this really big experience this past fall, which I've talked about in other podcasts, but this experience where I lost my apothecary in Hurricane Helene. And there was something about like losing my entire apothecary where it felt like I was starting over again. And I mean, it didn't feel like I am starting all over again. And yeah, so it inspired me, honestly, to offer the course for, actually, it's less than it was when I first launched it. But around the price that it was when I first launched it, when there was way less material in it and I had way less experience, but was obviously so passionate about this, is at the heart of everything that I did. Because I feel like there's something about nurturing beginnings right now that is just feeling really important. And I wanted to make this as accessible as possible to as many people as possible in this moment. So in the course, we talk about how to communicate with plants. We go really deep into plant communication, working with plant allies, channeling with plants, how to work with plants, and dream work. We go much deeper into dream work inside of that program. I love that aspect of the program. Flower essences, flower essence philosophy, practice, on the body treatments, land healing, earth acupuncture, and literally so much more. There's an entire guide, which is just one of the bonus material that is a guide to making pretty much every kind of herbal medicine. So this program is just one of the absolute favorite things I've ever created. It's such a special offering, and I'm really excited to welcome you in if it's something that is calling to you. So this is on sale for almost 40% off between now and May 29th. So if you're interested, you could go over and check that out. And if you are, I'm really excited about traveling with you in this course for the next 8 weeks. And the thing about this course that's awesome is that once the gateways open, you have them forever, including any new material that I add, which I have consistently been doing every year for almost a decade now. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for heeding the call, for being open to listening to the call of the plants. I really believe in my deepest heart of my heart that if we all just listen to the messages of the plants, if we all just heeded that inner part of ourselves that was guiding us towards connecting with the living world, that everything on our planet would change. That sea change that we're seeking would almost happen overnight. That's how much they have to teach us. That's how much they are here to help us. And just by saying yes to this, you are making such a profound change in this world. So until next time, may your connections with the green world be blessed. May you open up to untold avenues of potential through communicating with these plant elders in your life. And may they help you remember the most important thing of all, why you're here.